Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ and welcome to your detailed forecast update for December 10th, 2024. We have a lot to crack through today. Once again, starting things off over in the southeast of Queensland, we will be talking about the heavy rainfall and severe thunderstorms that have occurred and will occur over the next 24 hours as well. We'll head up the coast into the central Queensland, the far north Queensland area as well, and talk about some heavy rainfall that's on the cards there, especially up into the Cape York Peninsula. We'll talk about the weather over in Western Australia, where it's really stormy and also quite warm as well. And we've got two tropical lows over in Western Australia and a potential tropical low north of the Northern Territory as well to crack through. So all of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you are brand new to the channel, please consider subscribing. But let's get stuck straight into things today over in the southeast of Queensland. So overnight rainfall accumulations have been high again. Outside of Kingaroy, maximum rainfall accumulations overnight were up to 148 millimeters from stagnant severe thunderstorms that just dumped rainfall for hours upon hours upon hours out there. And as such, the rainfall accumulations have been very elevated there. A couple of moderate to heavy showers still occurring around the outer suburbs of Brisbane. I mean, it's be a bit of a challenge to call these the outer suburbs, but into the mountainous areas outside of Boonah and Bow Desert, and a couple of those more moderate bands of rainfall now heading into the Gold Coast, especially into the Coomera area as well. And this rainfall will ease off over the coming couple of hours. We're not really expecting too much in the way of significant rainfall accumulations, and in fact you can see the heaviest falls from this kind of shower band moving through, averaging between 17 and 25 millimeters an hour. So again, nothing really crazy from this rain band here, and nothing really to write home about. The heavy falls were concentrated around the Kingaroy area as well, inland to about Chinchilla, and like I said, widespread rainfall accumulations between 25 and 75 millimeters, topping out close to 150 millimeters. Thankfully, there is no flooding in that area from the rainfall that we saw last night. However, a bit of bad news for those areas is that there is going to be the similar forecast in terms of thunderstorms later on this afternoon and evening. We'll likely see a band of thunderstorms far out between Roma, extending into about Warwick, and these thunderstorms here could be quite strong. We're also expecting these thunderstorms to be very slow moving as well, like they were yesterday afternoon. So these showers and storms here, considering the fact that they are slow moving, they'll likely go severe warned for isolated pockets of heavy rainfall. However, I'm not expecting anywhere near the amount of rainfall that they dumped last night. Certainly the rainfall accumulation is expected to be much lighter, at least on the Queensland side of things. Still though, we could be seeing those severe thunderstorms for damaging winds and also those isolated pockets of heavy rainfall. Isolated bands of moderate to heavy rainfall expected to be streaming into the Gold Coast and the Brisbane area, and then into the southern parts of the Sunshine Coast later on this evening and into the early hours of tonight, into early hours of tomorrow morning as well. This rainfall here will be tending slightly heavier at times, especially closer to about 9 or 10 p.m, especially for locations outside of Brisbane, out towards the Warragamba Dam. The rainfall there will be tending towards the moderate to heavy at times, just powered by a bit of an onshore flow, but this rainfall should pretty much clear out of the Brisbane metro area more or less by sunrise tomorrow morning. A couple of showers lingering into the early hours of tomorrow morning. The showers continuing, in fact, tending to rainfall at times across the Sunshine Coast pretty much throughout tomorrow as well, before they clear out by tomorrow evening. And then we've got a couple of days of quieter conditions in terms of rainfall for the southeast of Queensland. But we've skipped through the powerful severe thunderstorms that are expected to fire up tonight into the northeast of New South Wales, and this is something that I want to give a bit of time to, considering we are expecting some really gnarly severe thunderstorms to fire up into the northeast of New South Wales tonight. Now, it doesn't really look like it on the forecast here, but you can see heavy blotches of rainfall around the Coffs Harbour, Grafton, Yamba, and up towards the Lismore sort of area. And this is where I want to flick it over to the convective forecast models here, because they do a much better job at analysing what's actually going to happen in terms of thunderstorm stuff. You can see really not a whole lot on the forecast right now, or for the right now, but you can see as the day goes on, we're going to be seeing a heavy band of thunderstorms develop along the coastline, just powered by this onshore flow and low pressure trough extending across the northeast of New South Wales. And in this flat plain area between Coffs Harbour and Lismore, we'll likely see some gnarly severe thunderstorms fire up from about 5 p.m. tonight, or from about 4 p.m, but they'll reach maturity closer to about 5 or 6 p.m. Likely to go a severe thunderstorm warned for heavy rainfall, large hailstones, and also damaging winds. These thunderstorms are going to pack a punch indeed, certainly for the heavy rainfall, as this surface trough attached to a low pressure system spins itself up offshore. You can see between Yamba and Lismore is kind of where we're expecting the worst of the conditions here, especially around kind of the Woodburn and Lismore area. That we're going to be seeing some pretty gnarly stuff throughout the course of today. Of course, still into the plains area, into the river area outside of Yamba. I think once you get up to about Lismore and some of the coastal areas around Lismore, especially up towards Byron Bay, the thunderstorms are going to weaken off significantly. There's not going to be as much of them. The most concentrated area of severe thunderstorms will be in this area here. And keep in mind, we're only expecting 1 or 2 thunderstorms to fire up tonight in this general area, but they will be very strong indeed, just with that heavy rainfall. Now, I know the convective forecast models are generally rubbish when it comes to predicting rainfall, at least throughout the course of today. In fact, they're very rubbish at predicting rainfall, but it gives you an idea of what rainfall is possible. So take this with a very heavy pinch of salt, but accumulations where these thunderstorms are going to be will be averaging out to about 25 to 50 millimeters, slightly higher where the heaviest falls in the center of the storm is expected to be and we could be seeing accumulations up to about 100, maybe even 110 millimeters or so outside of the Yamba area, and then extending up to about Lismore. Now, the rainfall accumulations are completely dependent on where these thunderstorms go, so the rainfall will be very hit and miss, and some locations will miss out pretty much entirely on the rainfall. But if you do get hit by the severe storms expected to fire up along the coastline, you will know it, because you'll get some very significant rainfall accumulations, that's for sure. Thankfully, these storms aren't into the mountainous areas, so dangerous riverine or flash flooding isn't really expected, but there certainly could be some big puddles lying around later on tonight into early tomorrow morning. Just with the way that this rainfall is going to fall, it's really going to come down in some torrential downpours. You know the stuff that I'm talking about into the northeast of New South Wales. You're no stranger to it, especially at this time of the year. Certainly some interesting stuff on the forecast as well, and really good conditions for thunderstorms as well. I mean, there's not too much energy in the atmosphere. They will kind of struggle on the energy side of things. Still, though, values are about half of what I would consider a good day. Humidity values are very good, though. That's what's going to be driving this thunderstorm outbreak. Humidity values, even into the late afternoon, we're looking at values close to 100% around the Lismore area, and couple that with some pretty warm temperatures as well, 24 or 25. It's going to feel substantially warmer, probably into the early 30s, so certainly going to be some warmer temperatures there. Into the northeast of New South Wales, just generally, there's going to be some warm temperatures, Moorea top of 33, and then further into the interior parts of Queensland, getting really warmed up towards 42 around Longreach and Hughenden. So again, quite warm across Queensland. But the thunderstorm risk out there isn't going to be too great. Just in terms of more of a general Queensland forecast for the next couple of days, you can see thunderstorms expected to continue moving further north as the days go on. Wednesday, thunderstorms into sort of more northern central Queensland, and Thursday into the far north and all across the central coast. And that's reciprocated into Friday as well before the weekend rolls around. The thunderstorms only concentrated into the Cape York Peninsula. But let's break that down for you in greater detail, beginning now into central Queensland. So we don't really have an awful lot of rainfall on the cards, but we could still be seeing some decent falls on Wednesday, especially into the southern parts of central Queensland. From Wednesday morning, we'll likely see some showers, tending to moderate rainfall at times around the Gladstone and Agnes Water and Bundaberg area, especially around the Bundaberg area into the northern sides of the Sunshine Coast. I wouldn't be surprised if Wednesday morning into the early afternoon hours, we're looking at rainfall totals of around 15 to 25 millimeters, especially for the Bundaberg and Agnes Water area. Unfortunately, this rainfall just does not stick around for long, and even though it will be light to moderate, and in fact more moderate at times, it's just not going to be long or lasting long enough for substantial rainfall accumulations to take hold. And as such, by the 9 a.m. on Thursday, when the rainfall's pretty much cleared out of Bundaberg, still a couple of showers lingering around, the accumulations will probably be very unlikely to be higher than about 25 millimeters, unfortunately. And again, that is just much needed rainfall for them, but frankly not enough. Rockhampton, not as desperate for the rainfall, but just how things seem to be working across Queensland this year. You can see as we pull it back to Wednesday, light to moderate showers continuing pretty much throughout the day, and then these showers tending a little bit heavier at times, especially as you get up towards the St. Lawrence and Ogmore area later on in the afternoon on Thursday. Plenty of storms going to be around as well throughout Thursday. The showers clearing out by Friday morning, but they do pipe up again into the afternoon hours of Friday. You can see thunderstorms pretty persistent along the central Queensland coastline, some of which could be severe as you get further inland to about Rolleston and Emerald on a Friday afternoon as well, but again, nothing really too crazy expected. Then these showers and storms pulling away from the coastline slowly on Saturday. Still, though, some showers and storms lingering through Saturday, Sunday, and into early Monday, but we will get to that in a future forecast update. And then pulling it back once again as we head further north up towards the Mackay and Townsville area, you can see showers pretty persistent throughout Wednesday afternoon. You can see, in fact, some good storms expected Thursday, Wednesday afternoon and Thursday morning as an onshore flow and the surface trough converges around the Mackay and Serena area, and as such, some substantial rainfall accumulations are possible to the 9 a.m. on Thursday morning from thunderstorms and showers streaming in there. I wouldn't be surprised if we're waking up Thursday morning to accumulations in the last 12 hours to be at least 75 millimeters around the mountainous areas outside of Mackay. Certainly some good rainfall accumulations possible there, because that's where the low pressure area is going to be concentrated. Those showers continuing through Thursday as well. There's going to be some heavy falls here and there, and I would not be surprised if a severe weather warning was raised for 6-hourly rainfall totals exceeding 100 millimeters across the central Queensland coastline, and that severe weather warning would be current throughout Wednesday afternoon, throughout the entire day of Thursday, and then probably going to be dropped sometime Friday morning into the early afternoon hours. The rainfall clearing out by Friday afternoon, but you can see it comes back again Sunday. The rainfall piping up again Sunday and Monday as well, with a bit of an onshore flow expected from a bit of a spin up in the Coral Sea. It'd be a bit of a stretch to call it a Coral Sea tropical low, but you can see a bit of rotation next week. Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, there's going to be some showers and rainfall streaming ashore into the central Queensland area, and it looks like areas around the Mackay area could pick up some substantial rainfall accumulations, but that will be talk for another forecast update. There's been a pretty complex and a pretty rapid fire central Queensland weather forecast, so if I've left your head spinning, then please let me know in the comment section down below, and let's take a look at rainfall accumulations right now. I'm just going to do over the next 7 days days. The forecast beyond that is slightly more unreliable, but we'll go from south to north. You can see on the northern reaches of the Sunshine Coast, just from those showers that are going to be coming through over the next sort of 48 hours, rainfall accumulations be between sort of that 25 to 40 millimetre mark. Looks like it could be a little bit wetter around the Bundaberg area up towards 50 millimetres there. Same deal around the Agnes Water area as well. And the majority of the rainfall will be falling across Wednesday and Thursday. You can expect up towards about 30 millimetres for Gladstone and Agnes Water. I don't think you're going to get all of that 30 millimetres, but it would be a nice thing to see. I'd say the more accurate number would be between 15 and 25 millimetres, but up to 30 millimetres is possible. And just from a few showers streaming through next week and into early next week, we'll likely see a few more drops of rainfall there, amounting to the 50 millimetre week-long rainfall accumulation. Rockhampton about 30 millimetres as well. Further up the coast to about Yeppoon, we're looking at up to 80 or 90 millimetres of rainfall. Again, the majority of that piping up next weekend, or this coming weekend rather, from the rainfall that's going to be firing up through there. And then the real rainfall is going to be between sort of the Ogmore and Mackay area. In fact, extending up to about Airlie Beach, Proserpine and Bowen. In fact, there's going to be some good falls there. Around the St. Lawrence and West Hill area, you're going to be looking at rainfall accumulations probably between that 100 to 200 millimetre mark, the majority of that coming through Thursday morning, and pretty persistent through Thursday morning and into Thursday afternoon as well, with 6 hourly rainfall accumulations in excess of 100 millimetres completely possible. And that's why sort of the 7-day rainfall accumulations approaching 200 millimetres there. Mackay expecting about 115 millimetres. I think that might be a little bit on the bullish end. Further inland out into the mountainous areas, so that's a little bit more plausible, but I think Mackay will only end up with about 80 millimetres over the next week, just a bit of a hunch. Bowen about 30 to 40 millimetres, probably a little bit wetter than that actually, depending on how the rainfall pipes up on the weekend. Some good falls also expected up to Ayr and Townsville, with up to about 80 or 90 millimetres possible for Ayr and about 60 millimetres possible for Townsville. The majority of that once again coming through over the coming couple of days. We haven't really honed on Townsville's forecast, so this is kind of what they're expected. A few thunderstorms lingering further inland throughout tonight and also tomorrow night. A couple of showers tending to rainfall at times as well throughout Thursday. In fact, there's going to be plenty of showers and storms lingering around Thursday as well, and then that rainfall does clear out by Friday afternoon. Still a few showers lingering into the weekend, but for the most part, Townsville's rainfall will be coming on Thursday and Friday, most likely in the Thursday afternoon to Friday morning kind of time block. And we're not done with Queensland yet. Let's head up into the far north and just give them a bit of a brief forecast as well. They're expecting thunderstorms to fire up from about tomorrow night. You can see showers and thunderstorms into the southern extremities of the Cape York Peninsula and then down towards Maxwellton and Huendon, extending between a line that goes into the Northern Territory. You can see these thunderstorms here could be severe, with isolated pockets of damaging winds and heavy rainfall. In terms of what's expected on the convective forecast models, it's a little bit hard to tell at this time what these thunderstorms are going to kind of look like into the afternoon hours, but it certainly looks like they're going to be pretty widespread. They will be few and far between those severe ones, but there's going to be plenty of blow-ups and there will be quite a lot of rainfall to go around as well. In terms of how they're going to be moving, it looks like they're going to have a bit of a direction in mind. Sometimes these thunderstorms up in the far north of Queensland, they can remain pretty stagnant, and as such those rainfall accumulations can blow out substantially, but it looks like the ones tomorrow afternoon will have a bit of a destination in mind. Also into the southern extremities of the Cape York Peninsula, thunderstorms beginning on Thursday morning, blowing up across the Atherton Tablelands, bringing more much needed rainfall to those locations on Thursday afternoon as well and into Thursday evening. Plenty of rainfall to go around. In fact, between a line of about Georgetown down to Charters Towers, there's going to be plenty of severe thunderstorms in this area here, with heavy rainfall and potentially damaging winds as well. In fact, tending to rainfall at times, these thunderstorms will be. They'll be more sort of rainfall concentrated as opposed to convective blow-ups. The thunderstorms will ease off a little bit. They'll die down a little bit on Friday afternoon. Still a couple of thunderstorms expected as you head into the weekend, especially further north into the Daintree rainforest and then into the northern extremities of the Cape York Peninsula as well. And then on Saturday, these thunderstorms pretty much becoming isolated to the far northern reaches of Queensland. Still, though, a couple of showers and storms lingering around the Cairns area, and as such, those rainfall accumulations over the next 5 days, they're not nothing, but they're not absolutely crazy as well. Atherton Tablelands expecting between 25 and 50 millimetres, probably on the upper end of that actually, from thunderstorms coming through on Thursday and Friday. The Daintree rainforest and Cairns anywhere between sort of that 20 to 30 millimetre mark, and then further north up towards that 40 to 60 millimetre mark, again from those thunderstorms coming through, especially on Friday. And then a couple of showers expected to pipe up on the weekend will likely lead to rainfall accumulations of around 30 millimetres on both Saturday and Sunday across the Cassowary coast as well. And as such, rainfall accumulations will be elevated there. That's been a very detailed start to the video across Queensland and the northeast of New South Wales. In terms of the southeast, I'm going to give it a complete miss in today's forecast update. I do apologise if you're from Sydney, Melbourne, Hobart or Adelaide. I'm not neglecting you. There's just really nothing to talk about apart from hot weather down there. And let's face it, hot weather is expected this time of the year. Let's head into the southwest of Western Australia, where we do actually have some hot weather worth talking about. especially into the central parts of the state. You can see temperature forecasts are quite extreme. We are under an extreme heat warning across Perth. In fact, all of the suburbs of Perth now under an extreme heat warning. You can see temperatures now expected to rise into the early to mid 40s outside of Kalbarri and Northampton throughout the course of today. They're going to get even warmer tomorrow as well. At Perth, expecting a 40-degree day, the first of the year, or the first of the summer rather. You can see temperatures expected to rise up into the early to mid 40s as well, once again into the northern parts of the wheat belt. Thursday is going to be the hot day, especially into the northern parts of the wheat belt and into the central wheat belt as well. Temperatures between 38 and 43 degrees expected. Perth slightly cooler at 38 degrees as a maximum, and things cooling off on Friday as a little bit of a low pressure system drags this kind of really hot weather further inland. You can see Perth expecting a top of 30 degrees. It's going to be a humid one though, with a bit of an onshore flow coming through, so the temperature is going to feel much warmer in Perth on Friday. It'll be a good beach day to get into the water and cool off. Plenty of thunderstorms expected out into the wheat belt as well Friday afternoon. In fact, Thursday afternoon we're also expecting a bit of a thunderstorm outbreak into the northern parts of the wheat belt, but Friday afternoon, man, there's going to be a thunderstorm outbreak into the wheat belt. It's going to look really good indeed. And if this was just over the hills, you bet I would be going out there to chase it. But unfortunately, it's a little bit too far inland. I know it's a bit deceptive, but these thunderstorms are about 300 or 400 kilometres outside of Perth across a pretty poorly maintained road network. So unfortunately, I won't be able to get out there and have a chase at them. But certainly some great thunderstorms expected on Friday afternoon. They're going to be widespread through the eastern parts of the wheat belt, pretty much all throughout the Pilbara region as well, and into the Gascoyne. So get excited if you're a thunderstorm lover on either a ranch or a big property out into the central wheat belt or into the Pilbara, well, the Pilbara as well, but the Gascoyne and the Goldfields region, certainly some good storms expected out there. Those thunderstorms persistent through Saturday and Sunday nights as well. But that's not what we're most interested in with Western Australia. We do have two tropical lows, three if you count the one that's not really expected to do anything, currently offshore from the Cocos-Keeling Islands. I'm going to go through them in order from importance to least importance. You can see the most important one right now is the one that's spinning up north of Karratha. In fact, it's about north of Exmouth at this time. It has done an okay job over the last couple of days in terms of getting itself together. You can see it's blowing up some good thunderstorms this time, but it's really struggling from wind shear. And I think this system is just going to be too big to properly organise itself, at least in the next couple of days. And unfortunately, I don't think really see it getting a chance of becoming a tropical cyclone. If it's going to do so, it's going to do so in the next 24 hours. But you can see just in terms of the wind forecast, it's not really expected to become a tropical cyclone. It's just too broad, too messy, and too organised. Its greatest chance will be tomorrow afternoon, but even then it looks like it's just going to be too weak, and the convection will continue to die off from about tomorrow afternoon as well. In terms of wind observations, Rowley Shoals never got above 40 kilometres an hour sustained, and the system passed pretty much right over Rowley Shoals as well. And in terms of the actual forecast as opposed to relative wind observations, Rowley Shoals currently with wind gusts or winds of 35 kilometres an hour when the forecast suggests 45. So this gives you a bit of an idea that this storm is actually substantially weaker than what is currently on the forecast. So it is a bit of an interesting one. Unfortunately, we're not going to see tropical cyclone Sean out of this system, but again, we will wait and see what actually happens. It still has about a 25% chance of developing. The one that's really confusing me and also boggling quite a lot of forecasters as well is just the one that's expected to spin up offshore from Darwin and then move through the WA area. The Bureau of Meteorology, and I can't really understand why, is giving it quite a high chance of development, about that 30 to 40%, which for a system that's not even on the forecast or not even existing right now is a very high chance for the Bureau of Meteorology. Typically speaking, they're very conservative. And you can see as I play through this forecast, albeit rapidly, there's really nothing that you can see over the next kind of 10 to 12 days until another system is expected to kind of spin up offshore from Western Australia around Christmas time. More on that in just a few minutes. So we've got to pull it back to the GFS forecast model here and have a look at what's actually expected to develop on the forecast. This system here is slowly wrapping itself up. In fact, I've been all over Facebook and there's a lot of people that are claiming to be able to see the centre of the low pressure system already. I mean, try and find something that's going to develop into a tropical cyclone in this convective mosh pit right here. It really, it's a little bit of a stretch to call this a developing system at this time, but albeit we will likely see a tropical low begin to develop from about tomorrow into Thursday afternoon. And as you can see, the GFS being really confident with this system here, developing it into a fully fledged tropical cyclone sometime Friday night into early Saturday morning, probably peaking it in terms of a Category 2 or Category 3 strength severe tropical cyclone, most likely on a Saturday or Sunday, and then it makes a run for the West Australian coastline. In fact, it makes its closest approach to about Karratha and Barrow Island sometime later on this coming weekend, before weakening off on Monday and Tuesday, albeit it's still going to be a pretty strong storm. It looks like it's going to make a pass of Western Australia very close, in fact, probably a little bit too close to comfort, especially at this time of the year, as a Category 3 strength severe tropical cyclone. So a bit of an interesting thing on the forecast, especially considering that this is a system at peak intensity offshore from Western Australia. The ECMWF calling for absolutely nothing, And even the Axis G3, which is the Bureau of Meteorology's own forecast model, not calling for anything either on the forecast at this time. So it is a little bit of a confusing one at this time as to what is actually expected for Western Australia. I really can't make sense of this forecast here. And as a forecaster, I have to kind of err on the side of caution and say that I wouldn't fully buy into this system, at least on the forecast, or at least panicking about it until it develops a tropical low or a center of low pressure system. And it hasn't done that yet. So I'm going to call this system off. I don't think it's going to develop into a tropical cyclone. I don't think it's going to develop into anything for now until I see an actual low pressure system begin to spin up for it. Of course, things can change and things are likely to change as well. And the second I see a low pressure system, I will be calling for a West Australian tropical cyclone threat. But at this time, it's just way too hard and way too risky for me to call it as a tropical cyclone threat. So for Western Australia, and especially those on the Pilbara coastline and the Kimberley coastline, nothing to worry about right now. Absolutely nothing to be concerned about, but I would keep a very close eye on the forecast if I was you, especially this time of the year. It's just a good thing to keep in the back of your head. One thing's for sure is, depending on how close these systems pass, the thunderstorms are going to continue across the Pilbara region, at least for the next week or so, and you can see rainfall accumulations over the next 7 days well in excess of the 100mm threshold for areas around Paraburdoo, Newman, Marble Bar, Telfer, and even further inland out towards Karanjini and Mount Augustus. Rainfall accumulations between 50 and 100mm because of the thunderstorms that are firing up there, and certainly very much welcome rainfall as well. It's not enough to cause too much concern out there, but certainly the risk of flash flooding pretty much every evening from some of these thunderstorms, so make sure you are taking care, especially on those roads, and prepared for some flash flooding, especially in these areas here that could be seeing more elevated rainfall accumulations outside of Jingalong and Newman. Some of these mines here certainly going to have a bit of trouble with this rainfall, but still though, some very welcome rainfall. It's going to make the desert bloom. I think some people underestimate how wet some of these areas are in central parts of Western Australia, with annual rainfall accumulations between 300 and 400mm. So there's still about half a year's worth of rainfall coming through in the next week or so, but that's very typical for these locations here. Certainly going to be a nice top up to the rivers, or it could get those rivers flowing entirely. So quite exciting as opposed to a little bit scary for them. It is a very exciting time of the year for these thunderstorms. Anyways, this video has dragged on for long enough. In terms of other tropical threats, yes, there are some over the Northern Territory and Queensland. They're nothing to worry about at this time, and they're too uncertain on the forecast for me to make a proper estimate on them at this time. So I'm going to leave that for tomorrow morning's forecast update. For those in the Northern Territory and Queensland, I know that it's a bit of a scary time of the year with cyclone season. So again, I don't want you to panic for systems at all, especially unless landfall is absolutely imminent at this time. So don't panic at all. Don't panic about the forecast. Western Australia either. You don't have a tropical cyclone threat at this time heading for you any time before Christmas. So again, that is a bit of good news on the forecast. Anyways, thank you so much for the recent support in the videos as well. We did hit 22,000 subscribers yesterday, another little milestone. So thank you so much for all the support. A special shout out right now to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. Again, I could not run the show without them, and their support is also much appreciated. But that is all from me today, and I will catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.